effectively. The pandemic obviously has had a huge and ongoing impact, and Congress took unprecedented steps to deal with that. The Federal Oversight Committee, who will be our first panel, has been tracking this economic aid to determine if it's been used appropriately, identified ways to ensure it is used productively as possible. The oversight, I forgot I can take my mask off while I'm talking. The oversight community has also worked to identify weaknesses in agencies' management of COVID-19 relief programs, ferret out individual cases of fraud, which in this sector are quite rare, not so much in the Paycheck Protection Program or unemployment programs, but in this it was rare, relatively rare. Our hearing today will examine both these issues, oversight of the funds and the impact of the aid on the industry stakeholders. There are always going to be individual bad actors attempting to defraud or financially abuse a program, take advantage of a crisis, and some programs may have had poor management or ineffective leadership, and that's what we want to hear from about the Oversight Committee, identify the loopholes or how people might have been enabled to commit fraud, and recommendations to improve the management of those programs. In some cases, the federal agencies, many that are outside our committee's jurisdiction, have not moved quickly enough to close these oversight gaps and to learn the lessons from past national emergencies. GAO, for instance, has issued 87 COVID-19 related recommendations since the pandemic began, and only 16 have been fully implemented. Despite these issues, the economic relief was necessary. Governors, mayors, local officials, labor organizations, business associations have all applauded the support Congress provided through legislation, helped to slow the spread of the virus, thwarted the loss of American jobs, bolstered the economic security of the U.S. and small business. Unfortunately, we may never know how successful these efforts were because government agencies failed to track the number of jobs that were saved. I look forward to hearing from our government witnesses about how to increase transparency on this front, hopefully retrospectively, but certainly in the future. This won't be our last national crisis. Who knows what the next one will be. I also look forward to hearing ideas to enhance accountability, improve federal crisis planning, emergency management programs, strengthen transparency of government expenditures. While I believe the COVID-19 relief funding was absolutely critical in addressing dire economic situation, public health catastrophe, I also commend the oversight community for identifying problems, highlighting cases of ineffective management, spotting cases of waste, fraud, and abuse, for management programs to help Americans impacted by COVID. There's several questions I hope that will be addressed by the panel. What recommendations do you have to help the government's coordinated response to national public health and other emergencies, particularly for the Federal Emergency Management Agency? I would note that we're not touching on aviation today, but the Department of Transportation was ordered under the Obama administration to develop an emergency response plan to deal with pandemics. We're still waiting. And secondly, how can we improve reporting and transparency related to the use of federal disaster assistance funds? How can we learn from the Federal Oversight Committee's identification problems in the federal response to the COVID-19 pandemic to improve the response during the next national crisis? And from the standpoint of transportation stakeholders, our second panel, for what worked well in terms of government response, helping them confront the crisis, how we can help support transportation workers and the critical transportation infrastructure we all depend upon in order to mitigate the impact of future national public health emergencies. Thanks to all of you for being here today, and I yield to the ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the government